I meditated every single day, probably in the last 4 years, maybe 20 days I haven't meditated, you know. So at the most in the last, at least 4 years. And what I would do is because there was I wanted to do more than 10 minutes of meditation. I always wanted to do more than 10 minutes, but I wasn't like ready to commit to like 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. Do you ever meditate?
Yes.
And when you
Not very
meditate, how
good at
long?
it, but
What's that?
I'm not very good at it, but I try.
I got it. Okay, cool. So tell me about your meditation process.
Well, it's usually after prayer because
Okay.
I mean I learned that you have to, if you pray, you got to be willing to be silent and listen to what God has to say back. And that's
Oh,
kind of that's what I try to do. I'll pray and then I'm silent. I will sit and try to focus on nothing and just listen. And
wow. That's beautiful.
it's not easy though, especially when I have ADD. I have ADD, so yeah, that can be a real hassle because my brain
I
wants to
love
run.
it. I can
Funny.
talk to God. I just don't listen very well.
Exactly. That's the hard part is listening to him.
That's awesome. So that's good. And when you meditate, like what, or when you're listening mode or your meditation mode, well, first off, how long is your prayer part?
Oh yeah. Usually, oh, I've been known to just pray and lay everything out to God for 15, 20 minutes. So
Wow, that's awesome.
maybe longer. I mean, I hold conversations with God all the time. I just don't always get to listen
That's
back.
beautiful. Okay. So I'm gonna use your conversations with God as
Hmm.
meditation. Like I'm gonna call them
It,
meditation.
it kind of is, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm gonna call. I'm just gonna use that. And when it comes to you and me talking, I'm gonna go ahead and use that as part of the meditation.
Okay.
Because part of the meditation is the way that I meditate, and a lot of people that I know is like I have an intention. So it's a guided meditation. So
Mhm.
if I'm going to be talking to God, if I'm going to be talking to spirit, then I want to tell I want to say this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want to work on, right? This is
Yeah.
this is what I need help on. And then when it
Hmm.
comes to the listening part, how long are the listening parts?
Uh, it varies.
Let's
It
say on
varies.
average.
Uh, 10 minutes,
Okay.
but sometimes longer. If it's quiet here and I'm the only one here, it can be longer. I mean, I'd sit there and just try to still myself for 30 minutes and just try. And a lot of times, yeah, there's outside stuff, but it's always okay, acknowledge it and try to focus again and try to
Yeah.
relax. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So one of the things that I use, so kind of segue on that, the
Hmm.
outside noises for me and the distractions for
Hmm.
me are what trigger me to go back into the prayer or go back into the meditation. They're the
Yeah.
reminders, they're the cues, the triggers. So
Yeah.
if I'm meditating and then I'm thinking all of a sudden about a candle or something, or about what I need to eat, or my day tomorrow, or Ingrid or something like that,
Yeah.
the cue is that I'm thinking that, and that tells me to go back into my meditation.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bumper. It's kind of a reminder, like squirrel. Oh yeah, okay, let me get back to here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, I see what you're saying. Yes.
So I consider that as part of the meditation, and the meditation is my attempt at having something to say about what my thoughts are.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Something to say about how my life is going to occur, how I'm going to experience my life.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So that would be that's how I approach meditation. So in certain meditations, okay. So like if I'm going to commute with spirit, if I'm going to talk to God, then I'm using both the listening and the speaking as both part of the meditation. And then the cues are going to be the cues.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens is I knew that I needed to meditate. I knew I wanted to meditate. And so what I was doing is I was meditating for 13 minutes. But I knew that in my 13-minute meditation, I knew that I needed to like a little bit of a cue. So the 20 seconds is what I would do is I'd set my iPhone up for 13 minutes and 20 seconds. And then that 20 seconds would give me the cue, just kind of like, all right, let me sit up, let me take a breath, and then I would have 13 solid minutes of focus. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So what happened one day is we're supposed to go on a trip. I was supposed to go, hey, Veronica.
Hi.
So what happened one day is I was supposed to go on a trip, and I was I was supposed to leave at 3 o'clock, and it was a Friday afternoon. Supposed to get on a plane about 3 o'clock. I was going to go visit some friends, and what happened was I had a bunch of work to do, and I had screwed around all morning. I had probably had 3 or 4 hours of work to do, and it was probably around 11 o'clock in the morning, and I hadn't packed, and I knew I needed to get to the airport by about 2 o'clock, maybe 1:45, 1:30. So I had about 2.5 hours, not only to do all this work I had to do, but then get home and then pack. And my office was like 5 minutes from home, so that's easy. My suitcase is there. I could pack. It'd take me just a few minutes. I was just going to go away for a few days, so it wasn't going to be a big process. So, but I had these loans, I had like 3 loans I had to get going. And the average time it takes me to get a loan set up is probably anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. So I had about 3 hours to 4.5 hours of work and 2.5 hours to get it done, get home, pack, and then get over to the airport. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I was stressed out. I needed to get stuff done. So I was sitting there, and as I was sitting there looking at and considering like what I had to do, and I was like, oh my God, I'm kind of nervous and all this. I thought about my meditation. And what I thought is at that time, I was meditating for a minimum of 13 minutes. I was setting my timer. I could work for a minimum of 13 minutes. And so what I told myself is I said, if I can focus for 13 minutes, which I'm dedicating my time, right? I'm not distracted. I'm focused. I take inventory. I dedicate my time, my energy, my knowledge, and all that to the practice of meditating. What if I did that? What if I was to set my alarm, the same alarm that I was using to meditate, and I was going to dedicate that to my business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I literally did that. I grabbed my phone. I hit the timer right here. It said 13 minutes and 24 seconds. I hit the start button. And I got the first loan done in literally about 10, 12 minutes.
Wow.
I was done. I had 2 other loans to get done. The second loan took me about 20 minutes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the third loan took me like right at 13 minutes. So I got like 4.5 hours, 3 to 4.5 hours of work done in less than a single hour, less than an hour.
Wow.
And that was like, I was blown away by that. Like, well, this is really a trip, it was really a trip. And I realized in that moment, Veronica and Sydney, I realized that how the brain works is the brain loves to have limits. So for instance, if you think about soccer is a cool thing, but you can go to a park and play soccer, right? Which is basically kicking the ball around, right? But once you make a sideline and once you make goals and once you put a time on it, it changes the game. Like football without a goal, without a timer, without 4 downs is just a game throwing a ball around.
Yeah.
What makes it interesting are the rules that you put around that. So what I realized after I did this was that my brain went into competition mode. It went into like kick butt mode. It went into flow. And so what I started to do from that point on is every time I went to work, I take my phone. If you see my phone here, let me go off of, let me turn off this screen share so you can see me. So you can take my phone here, and I have my phone set up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I went to work from that point on, I'd hit the start button, boom, and I get to work. So I started doing that for a while, and that was really cool until I read a book by Brian Kane. It's called 1%. And what Brian did is he said, if you take 24 hours and you divide it by 100, 1% is 14 minutes and 24 seconds. 1% of 24 hours is 14 minutes and 24 seconds. So the question I'm asking Veronica and Sydney, the question I ask you, are you willing to dedicate 1% of your day to your personal development?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, absolutely, right? That's a silly question.
Mhm.
So what I did as a practice is I went from meditating for 13 minutes to now meditating for 14 minutes and 24 seconds. Those are the increments I meditate. So oftentimes I'll do like 4 or 5 versions of 14 minutes and 24 seconds. But what I was doing is I was training my brain to focus 1% of my day into what I was doing. Are you with me on that?
Mhm.
So basically what I'm doing is I'm building a muscle that allows me to put that muscle anywhere I want to. So for instance, if you're working on a task, Sid, what is something, Sydney, what is something that you're working on in your life that you resist? That you like, I know I need to work on this, but I'm resisting working on it.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff.
Name one or two. And Veronica, think of one as well.
So right now I started this program, neurocycling, which is about basically rewiring your brain.
Uh-huh.
And it's difficult. It's difficult. And I'm resistant to it. Right now it's taking a little time. I'm just getting started with it. Eventually it'll get faster.
Yeah.
But I've been putting it off, and I'll do it. Finally, I do it in the evening. I should probably do it in the morning. But yeah, I'm
Okay.
resistant to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the
big
way
time.
that this works, so if you were going to use it's called Focus 14. So if you
Mhm.
were going to use Focus 14, then what you do is you set your timer up 14 minutes and 24 seconds. Is there a place that you have to do this at? Is there a place that you do the program? Is it on computer?
Well, it involves an app on my phone. I read her book, and I have to write. So I usually like to do it here at home
Okay,
because
cool.
yeah, it's journaling. So yeah,
Right.
I don't need anybody looking over my shoulder.
So it works like this. It kind of works like this. So I know I'm going to have to journal, right? So what I
Yeah.
do, watch the screen as I go, I'm going to journal now, and I hit this button. And I got 14 minutes and 24 seconds to do it.
Mhm.
And you dedicate your time and you allocate your 1% of your time for that.
Okay.
Give that a shot. See what happens.
All right.
Are you willing to try that?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
That sounds good.
Does it sounds pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
So then at the end of the 14 minutes and 24 seconds, you're going to have a bell that goes off, right? It's going to be a chime, like mine's a chime, right? It says when timer ends, the chimer goes off. So the chime goes on. And what you do is just take a minute and you just take a breath. You just breathe and acknowledge yourself that you just dedicated some time to yourself, to what was important. And what you're going to do is you're going to reprogram your brain to want to give to yourself. That's what you're doing. So your brain is being reprogrammed to do this, to dedicating time to yourself, what's important to you. And therefore your brain, the next time you go to do it, your brain's there's going to be less resistance because your brain is looking forward to the celebration, the accomplishment. So what I do is if something takes maybe 45 minutes, then I hit the 14 minutes and 24 seconds. I'm doing this. When the chime happens, I stop it, I take a breath, and then I start it up again. The chimer goes off, I stop it, I take a breath, I acknowledge myself. Great job, Martine. That's like me. I work my butt off, hit the timer again and go. And what I find is that I accomplish things in a shorter period of time and I'm more focused.
Cool.
So do you do it multiple times
Yes.
or is it okay?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
So as it hits, as it hits 10 seconds, it goes 10 seconds, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I hit the chimer will go off, right? The chime will go off, ding, 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 the alarm. I just look at the alarm. The alarm is my cue to acknowledge myself that I did it.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to talk about something called the flow process next month, but the flow process is struggle release, flow, and recovery. And in the recovery process is where you celebrate your wins. So in this mode right here, which is trigger, observe, connect, act, right? Celebrate is the moment that I'm celebrating. So the trigger is me hitting the timer, right? The action is what is going through the process of doing the work. So it's that journaling that you do, Sydney. Are you with me?
Yep, I'm
It's,
listening.
and then when the timer goes off, you take a minute and high five yourself. Good job, Sydney. Awesome. But you still got more work to do. Hit the timer again. And so what it is these are the cues that get your brain to want to do that again. So as you celebrate, right? Just like when you sing to your daughter, if you're going to sing to Clara, happy birthday, aren't you excited to do that every time she has a birthday?
Mm-hmm.
So the celebration becomes a celebration about you that slows down this process, that speeds up the process of resistance. So you go from celebrate, you go through the cue, and you go straight into action. And you have less resistance in action. I do this when I have to read, I say have to read at night. I don't have to read at night. I love reading, but sometimes I want to be on TikTok or some stupid thing like that, right? So I go, okay, I'm going to dedicate 14 minutes and 24 seconds to my reading. And I hit the button and I take the book out and I'm going to read for 14 minutes and 24 seconds. The chime goes off and I'm like, I'm going to do it again. Hit the chimer. Now I'm at 28 minutes. I'm almost at 29 minutes of reading. But because of the focus of my brain, I'm reading faster, I'm absorbing more, I'm celebrating, so I want to read more. So it's reprogramming your brain to do the things you want to do. So Veronica, what's something that you resist doing?
Well, it's I guess it's not that I don't want to do it, but I've been slacking off on it, and it's like meditating every day.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
if you were to do that? I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, go ahead.
So
I'm
are you
good.
willing to dedicate 1% of this 24 hours to your meditation practice?
Yes.
So it's simply, it looks just like this. It really looks just like this. It's this silly. It is this basic and this silly. So you go, let me see. That one should turn on. Okay. So you take out your phone, right? And you say, this is what I do. I take out my phone. I start my meditation music. So here's my meditation music. If you know, it's right here. You'll see. There's my meditation music. Where is it at? Okay. It's usually right here. There you go. So the meditation, I start my meditation music. That's going. Put my headphones on. I go over here and I hit the start button. I put the phone down and I meditate until the chime goes off.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
And it just works. It sounds silly and simple, but it just works so well. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's about saying, I'm going to dedicate 1% of my day to me.
Yeah. No, that's good. I think
Yeah.
we don't, well, at least I don't take that much time for me.
Yeah. And at the end of that meditation, you take a second and you acknowledge yourself and you love yourself for just a moment, just a minute, celebrate what you did. I just meditated for 14 minutes and 24 seconds for 1% of my day. Then I'm going to move on. And you move on and then what could happen is the next time you run into that opportunity, there's Aaron. Hey, Aaron.
Hey.
So the next time you have an opportunity to meditate, is it going to be easier for you to meditate?
Yes.
Yeah, see? And are you good? Can you see that you're going to look forward to meditating?
Yeah, for sure.
And Sydney, can you see that you would look forward to journaling?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like that. And I do that. And I do that with my mortgage business. You know, I got to call somebody. Anytime I ever call somebody, anytime I ever call someone, pretty much I would say 80% of the time that I'm calling a client, 80% of the time I'm calling a client, I'm hitting this button. Boom, call the client. Because I want to get myself into the zone. I want myself in the zone.
That's good then. That way you're more focused on what you have to do and get done.
Exactly. Like I know Aaron does a lot of stuff. Did you hear what we were talking about before, Aaron? Were you able to hear it?
Not all of it. She
Okay.
has her headset in, so I couldn't hear what you were saying. I saw your lips moving.
How about Sydney or Veronica? Why don't you can you explain it to Aaron what we're talking about? I want to hear that if you don't mind.
So we're talking about using a timer in order to focus on something, and you use the end of the timer as a celebration that you focus for that time. That's going to build up this reward idea, so you're going to be more willing to focus. And so, yeah, and it's a built-in reward. You celebrate yourself that, hey, I did that.
And what's the significance of the 14 minutes and 24 seconds of Veronica?
That is one.
Or Sydney,
Oh.
Sydney, go ahead.
Okay, that is 1% of 24 hours. So you're spending 1% of your day in order to improve yourself. And the more you spend, the more a larger percentage of your day you're spending on improving yourself, which is always a good thing. And it's definitely worth it.
Got it.
So the
That's
question would be, so does that make sense? So basically what you do is you set your alarm, your phone, which is what I do, is in the timer, you see the little timer mode down here, and I set it for 14 minutes and 24 seconds. And then I just hit the start button, and that puts me in flow. That puts me into what I want to do. So if it's read, I'm resisting reading, or just going for a walk, or I do it with my meditation practice. It just helps me do it because it's saying, I'm going to dedicate 14 minutes or 1% of my day to this practice. That's it. And I know when it starts and I know when it ends. So the question I had for Sydney was what would he want to dedicate it to? And he said, what did you say, Sydney?
Well, the neurocycling and that journaling involved in it. So yeah, because I put it off, it's one of those things that it's hard for me to do. I don't know. I'm not good about writing about myself, I guess, and analyzing that stuff, and I need to get better at it.
That's awesome. And then Veronica, you're going to do what?
Continue to meditate more regularly or daily.
Cool. So she's going to dedicate. So Veronica is going to dedicate 1% of her life, or her day, at least, to the meditation practice using her phone. Sydney's going to use 1% of his day, dedicate that to his neurocycling process.
Yeah.
Is there something, Aaron, that you're willing to dedicate 1% of your day to?
Well, the two things I've been wanting to get back into and do it on a consistent basis is one, what Veronica's saying with meditation, because we usually will do that together.
Yeah.
But for me also is exercise.
Yeah.
And get into the habit of doing that on a consistent basis. Doesn't have to be a daily, but at least a consistent weekly.
Yeah. So are you willing to dedicate 14 minutes and 24 seconds? Let's say it's just daily to some exercise, some degree of exercise, 1% of your day to your physical health.
I could do that. Okay.
Cool. So then let's just try it, and then we'll all check in. We'll check in a couple weeks on it.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Cool. That's really it.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, it gives me something to shoot for. So